Hey everyone, welcome back. Okay, this is probably going to be one of my most controversial reviews ever because it's a series that nowadays most people seem to either love or hate. But I'm kind of on the fence, and that's kind of unheard of. I mean, I thought it was really good, but there's still lots of flaws in it. That, of course, is Sword Art Online. I know I'm kind of late to actually watching this. I watched it this past week, and I absolutely loved it. It, I just don't know. I mean, I finished it within 3 days, if that says anything. I rarely binge anime like that, but I finished it within 3 days, and that includes all 25 of the normal episodes, the five special episodes, and the hour-long special edition or extra edition, which is basically like a retelling of the series, of the first 25 episodes of the series, only highly condensed, kind of like a retrospect of it. I guess you could say. Excuse me. And yeah, so that's basically what that is. And I finished it all within 3 days. So, yeah. That says a lot right there. Alright, but anyways, it was directed by Tomohiko Ito and the music's by Yuki Kajiura. And it's by Studio A1 Pictures and licensed by Madman Entertainment. And it originally ran from July 7th, 2012 to December 22nd, 2012, with a total of 25 episodes plus the 5 special episodes and the 1 hour long extra edition. Alright. It's actually based off the light novels, not the manga. There's several different mangas for it. There's the Sword Art Online Anti-Cred, the regular manga, the Fairy Dance Girls Up, and then Progressive, which is like a retelling, I think, of the original story. And then there's Phantom Bullet. However, for the light novel, there's a total of 14 volumes so far. None of them have been actually translated yet, unfortunately, because I really wanted to get them, but I can't. Alright, and so, so that really sucks, but I think the first one's going to be translated sometime later this month, but I'm not too sure. In fact, I'll check right here. Yeah, April 22nd, so in a few days the first one's actually going to be translated, even though the first one came out in Japan April 10th, 2009. Yeah, it seems like there's like 2 released each month, or 2 released each year, because, well, the first 2 volumes were both released on April 10th, 2009. But then December 10th, 2009, so that was 3 that year. And then there was 3 released in 2010, 2 released in 2011, and 3 released in 2012, 2 released in 2013, and 1 released in 2014 so far. It was released the 10th of this month, actually 10th of April of this year. So, but yeah, I really want these to get translated into English. I'm not sure how quickly it'll be, because Volume 3 is going to get translated December 16th of this year. So it's going to take a while, obviously. But regardless, this is an anime review. I couldn't review light novels even if I wanted to, because I can't read them, obviously. I can't speak or read Japanese. Anyways, though, let's talk about the plot. So the plot revolves around this new online video game called Sword Art Online, or SAO, which is a virtual reality, massively multiplayer online role-playing game, or VR MMORPG, released in 2022. With the Nerve Gear, a virtual reality helmet that simulates the user's 5 senses in their brain, players can experience and control their in-game characters with their minds. On November 6, 2002, the players log in for the first time and later discover that they are unable to log out. They are then informed by Akihito Kayaba, SAO's known creator, that if they wish to be free, they must reach the 100th floor of the game's tower and defeat the final boss. However, if their avatars die in-game, their bodies will also die in the real world due to the nerve gear releasing an electric shock through their brains. One of those players is Kazuto Kirigaya, or his avatar's name is known as Kirito, who was chosen as one of the 1,000 beta testers in the closed beta of the game. Sword Art Online actually had 1,000 public beta testers, which makes sense because, like, if it's virtual reality, you probably want the players to experience it first before you release it officially, you know. Since he had previous experience and knowledge of the game, he felt that he could beat the game easily. As a result, he set out on an adventure to beat the game. As the game progresses for 2 years, Kirito eventually befriends a female player named Asuna, with whom he ultimately falls in love. After the duo discover the identity of Kayaba's avatar in SAO, in which actually ends up secretly being the leader of the Blood something guild. I forget what exactly it was called though, in which Asuna was a member of originally, and Kirito eventually ends up joining. They confront and destroy him, freeing themselves and the other players from the game. It's actually quite simple, but because they're going to succeed in the end, but the ride is really the journey is in this series is really what pulled me into it. Alright. And that's really why I think this series shines now. That's the plot. The plot, I think, is sound. Except for okay, first I'm just going to talk about all the positives, which I'm going to be kissing this game's ass. Then I'm going to talk about all the negatives. Alright, because Sword Art Online is not the only game in here. There's also, what's it called? Alfheim Online or something? Alfheim Online? Alright. Which is another game that's released afterwards, which they go into, and they're able to log out, but they still spend a lot of time in it, obviously. And that's the basic gist of the plot, though. It's actually quite simple. Now, as for the characters, Kirito is a pretty... how should I say this? Kirito himself gets a lot of hate. Hate that personally I don't feel he deserves. And the reason for this is because people claim that he's a Gary Stu, that he never struggles. To which I first have to facepalm. After I've regained my composure because of how stupid of a comment that is, I'll of course have to rebuttal because that's pure unbridled bullshit. Okay? Let me explain something here. How could you possibly say that Kirito never struggles? Okay, maybe it would have been kind of nice if he struggled a little bit more physically in terms of battles. Yeah, okay. But he still loses. He loses against bosses, for example, like that one guy, I forget his name, but he was the one who was Asuna's bodyguard in the Blood Moon Guild, I think it was called. And then there was the final boss, obviously. There was Akihito Kayaba the first time the two squared off. Before they knew he was actually Akihito Kayaba. When people say that Kirito never struggles, I seriously wonder if we were watching the same fucking series, alright? Really. Because ultimately it's the bosses that matter the most, and he always struggled during the major bosses. Alright. And that's, of course, what matters the most. So Kirito's character was fine with me. I honestly don't see what people were complaining about. A lot of people also complain about Asuna Yuki, the main love interest of the series. And the reason people complain about her is because she's a tsundere. Okay, I'm not going to deny that statement, but in terms of tsundere, she's incredibly fucking tame. Maybe it's just me because I have a soft spot for tsunderes in general, but she is incredibly fucking tame. If you could even call her a tsundere, that is. Really. I mean, if she is, then she's the least bad kind of tsundere you could ever possibly fucking see. And that's just a fact. Alright, so, yeah. So I really did like Asuna as a character. In fact, Asuna was my favorite character. Alright. So yes, there were lots of other characters too. There was Kirito's, which I'm just going to call him Kirito because, I don't know, I'm used to it. But there was Kirito's cousin in the real world who they thought for the longest time that they were siblings, but really they find out in the anime that they're just cousins. And she actually ends up, she hates all types of online games and video games in general because after a while, you know, the two of them basically got along very well as children, but after a while, after Kirito started playing online games all the time, he basically started shutting her out and being mean to her and whatnot. And she blamed basically video games for that, for taking her brother away, or even though they were really cousins, you know. However, for FM Online, or whatever it's called, she actually does end up getting into it just to see exactly what Kirito sees in it, and she ends up loving it. Alright. Yeah, no surprise there, right? So yeah, so she's a really cool character too that I really liked. There is a little thing that I guess is kind of creepy with, I mean, a lot of people think it's kind of creepy with her actually basically admitting to the viewers that she had fallen in love with her cousin, which at that time I think she still thinks that Kirito's her brother. But this is Japan. That's actually very common in Japan. Alright. Enough said. And it didn't really bother me all that much because it wasn't something that like stuck. You know, obviously Kirito stuck with Asuna, which I was hugely in favor for because another complaint over this series is that the romantic relationship between them was forced, and I honestly don't think so at all. I thought it worked out very well, personally. Like, the chemistry was just so well done and so well written between the two of them. Because they start out and they don't really hate each other when they first meet, like a lot of generic romances do. Alright? But they're kind of indifferent towards one another, I think, mostly, when they first meet each other and whatnot. And it grows and their relationship together grows over the course of the series, obviously. Now, that being said, what else do I like about this series? Well, the animation is fucking amazing. Then again, this is done by what studio again? A1 Pictures. It's done by A1 Pictures, and A1 Pictures is fucking amazing. So it should come to as no surprise that the animation in this series is phenomenal. It really is. There's barely any, if any, scenes where there's just still frames and nothing moving, and it looks amazing. The art is also really good. I really enjoyed it. The music was definitely a mixed bag. There weren't any real tracks inside of the series that stood out that I can remember, but it was amazing at the moment. and the opening was fucking phenomenal, and the ending was okay. It was, it was decent. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either. All right. Whew. That being said, now let's get into the stuff that I didn't like about it. Yes, because believe it or not, this series did have things that I didn't like about it. First off, a lot of people will tell you that the second half of the series is total shit. Although I don't agree with that in that context, I do think that it was far inferior to the first half. Alright, mainly because it was a lot shorter. Like, the second half of the series is technically, like, starts at, like, episode 16, I think. So it's a little bit shorter. They don't have as much time to flesh out all the new characters and everything. And really, I don't think they even tried to flesh out all the new characters, which was really disappointing, in my opinion. Alright. I mean, there were lots of things I did like about it. That's when we finally got to meet in full Kirito's cousin, which was really cool. Again, she's one of my favorite characters. Alright. And we got to see just exactly how far Kirito would be willing to go for the woman he loves, which is Asuna. But that comes to my biggest problem with the second half, which is my biggest problem with the series as a whole. Asuna gets immediately transformed from this badass female who's over-sexualized very little, like almost none, which was impressive, really, to a damsel in distress. No, I'm not fucking kidding. That really pissed me off. That has a huge amount of fan service to it, to specific points, but I'll talk about that later. And basically, the reason this is because even after Sword Art Online ended, one of Akihito Kaiba's minions, which Akihito Kaiba was supposedly dead, but one of his minions, was one of his workers in the real world as well. Basically, in the real world, he's having a deal with her father to where the two of them will marry. Even though Asuna hates this dude's guts, I'm not exactly sure what her father's standing on that was, like specifically. But apparently Asuna hates his guts. And so he trapped her inside of Sword Art Online still, and somehow transferred her mind over to ALO, which I'm not exactly sure how he did that. That's something that they just didn't explain to her, which I was also kind of disappointed in. Alright. And so she was trapped inside of there, and Kirito had to head back inside inside of ALO in order to save her. Alright. And he finds lots of new friends who are willing to help out, such as his cousin's avatar, who he doesn't know is actually his cousin until towards the end of the series, but yeah. And that's the basic gist of it, though. This dude's a real douchebag. Like, I hated his character. He's my least favorite character in the series. Like this guy who's keeping her captive. Seriously, like, it's hard for me to explain, but he's a huge douchebag. He actually attempted to rape her in front of Kirito inside of the game one time. Yeah. If he's not dead, then he better not be in Season 2. And if he is, he better fucking die. Just saying. Anyways. And Kirito tried to kill him. I don't know if he succeeded or not, though. Like, and at, like, almost the very end of the series. Might have been the last episode too. I don't remember for sure. But yeah. So that's the basic gist of that. So I was really disappointed that she didn't get enough screen time there. And even when she did manage to break out of her cage, it looked like she was going to really do some good to help herself break out of there. But nope, she was captured by these two slime avatars, whatever the fuck they are, with tentacles, and put back in her cage. Another problem, as I mentioned before, was the excessive fan service in the second half. Seriously. Not only, towards the end, did she almost get fucking raped by this douchebag guy in front of Kirito inside of the AOL, but she almost got fucking raped by those two slime avatar things with tentacles that ended up putting her back in her cage. Really? It got serious though when it came to with that one douchebag guy. I can never remember his name. I really don't care to either. It got really serious with him though, because he actually ripped like her top off here, like not the entire thing, but like the part that covered her breasts. And obviously we didn't actually see her full breasts, but he ripped it off, and then her hair was like, classic fan service censorship. Her hair was covering her nipples. No, that's just classic fan service censorship, Yeah, but the fan service in the second half was way too fucking extreme, especially considering that how fantastic or how amazingly they were able to keep away from it in the first half. It was honestly quite disappointing. Let me check my time here real quick. Alright, just over 21 minutes, almost 22 minutes here. Alright, I should probably be wrapping this up pretty soon, or this is getting pretty long, but since this is dubbed and I did watch the dub, I'm going to say that the voice acting in the English dub was fucking amazing. I'm going to say that right now, what really was. I definitely recommend this dub unless you're one of those people who's against dubs. But if you're not, I definitely recommend you watch this thing in the English dub if you haven't watched this yet. Even though I'm pretty sure I'm one of the only people who hasn't watched this yet. So, yes. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say about this series here. Overall, I definitely recommend it if you, for some reason, haven't watched it yet. I thought it was amazing. It had a lot of flaws, but I thought it was amazing, and really my favorite part about it was the relationship between Kirito and Asuna. In fact, my favorite scene in the entire fucking anime was during the Sword Art Online version, like in SAO, when the two of them were trapped in there, and they used their money, basically their experience points, to buy a house in the countryside in there, and they lived there together for a little while. Those were literally my favorite scenes in the entire fucking series. Oh, and also the scenes where they were like walking through the woods together. They had their like regular clothes on. They didn't have their battle clothes on or anything. Those were all my favorite scenes in the entire fucking series. I'm not kidding. Anyways, I definitely recommend this series. So yes. But anyways, overall, hope you enjoyed this review, guys. See you after, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.